Arjun was an ordinary young man from a small town, the kind of person people easily overlooked. He had dreams, but they were always bigger than his actions. Every morning he would wake up thinking that today would be different, that today he would study harder, improve his skills, and move closer to the life he imagined. Yet every night ended the same way, with unfinished plans, excuses, and a quiet disappointment he never spoke about. Deep inside, Arjun believed he was capable of more, but he was trapped in a cycle that felt impossible to break. He waited for motivation like it was some kind of magic. On days when he felt inspired, he worked for a few hours and imagined a bright future. But when that feeling disappeared, so did his effort. Slowly, he began to accept a dangerous thought that maybe he just wasn't meant for anything great. One evening, while sitting alone and watching people pass by, he noticed something that stayed with him. There was an older man who came to the same spot every single day. No matter the weather, no matter how busy the street was, the man showed up and quietly did his work. There was no excitement in his routine, no visible reward, just consistency. Arjun found himself wondering why someone would live like that, repeating the same actions without any sign of immediate success. Curiosity turned into reflection. Arjun realized that the difference between him and that man wasn't talent or luck, it was discipline. The man didn't wait to feel motivated. He didn't depend on mood or circumstances. He simply showed up and did what needed to be done. That thought unsettled Arjun, because it meant that his biggest problem wasn't a lack of ability. It was a lack of discipline. That night, something shifted in him. There was no dramatic moment, no loud declaration, just a quiet decision that felt heavier than anything he had ever promised himself before. He decided that he would stop negotiating with his excuses. He would stop waiting for the right mood. He would start doing the work, whether he felt like it or not. The next morning, when his alarm rang, the familiar resistance returned. His mind offered comfort, telling him to rest a little longer, to start tomorrow, to take it easy. But for the first time, he didn't listen. He got up. It wasn't easy, and it didn't feel heroic, but it was real. He sat down to study, even though his focus wandered. He practiced, even though he felt slow. He continued, even when it felt pointless. Days passed, and the struggle didn't disappear. In fact, it became more noticeable. Discipline was not exciting. It demanded repetition, patience, and effort without immediate results. There were moments when Arjun questioned himself, when he felt left behind as others seemed to enjoy life without such strict routines. But each time he felt like stopping, he reminded himself of the choice he had made. He wasn't chasing comfort anymore, he was building something stronger. Gradually, small changes began to appear. His mind became clearer. Tasks that once felt confusing started to make sense. His confidence, once fragile, began to grow quietly from within. It wasn't the kind of confidence that came from praise or recognition, but from knowing that he was keeping his promises to himself. That alone gave him a sense of control he had never experienced before. People around him started noticing the difference. They saw someone who was more focused, more consistent, and more determined. Some admired him, while others didn't understand why he worked so hard. But Arjun no longer needed their approval. He had discovered something far more valuable, the ability to rely on himself. Time moved forward, and opportunities began to appear. When Arjun faced challenges, he didn't panic like he used to. He approached them with a calm mindset, trusting the process he had built through discipline. When he finally got a chance to prove himself, he didn't rely on luck or last-minute effort. He relied on the work he had done every single day, even when no one was watching. In the end, Arjun achieved what he once thought was out of reach. But the real transformation wasn't in his success, it was in who he had become. He was no longer someone who waited for motivation or made excuses. He was someone who acted, regardless of how he felt. He had learned that discipline is not about perfection or intensity, but about consistency and commitment. Arjun's journey showed him a simple but powerful truth: a person's life does not change in one dramatic moment. It changes through the quiet decisions made every day. Discipline may not feel exciting, and it may not bring instant results, but it builds something far more important: a strong, reliable version of yourself. And once you become that person, nothing feels impossible anymore.